beautiful life does not happen. It is built daily by prayer, humility, sacrifice, and love. Happy morning, everyone. The PGN Research Department of English welcomes you all to this webinar. Become an asset and not an employee. I welcome Dr. Rajesh Bojan to this webinar. Now, I invite Mr. Vailnathan to introduce the resource person.
Good morning, everyone. I'm very much delighted to introduce the chief guest of this webinar, Mr. Rajesh Bojan. Mr. Rajesh Bojan works as assistant professor and senior verbal trainer at Sri Shakti Institute of Engineering and Technology. He is an ardent lover of literature and has been composing poetry since 2004. He has published a collection of poetry titled Mayattai Totta Nodi 2008 in Tamil, consisting of 176 poems. This book was selected for inclusion in several libraries through the National Library Board of Singapore. His second collection of poetry in Tamil, Irayattai Vittu Pogirai, published in 2019 in Amazon Kindle edition. He has published several articles in leading national and international journals. He is the founder and editor-in-chief of the Dawn Journal, an international multidisciplinary peer-reviewed academic journal. So, once again, I welcome you, sir.
Before I could begin the speech, I want to thank Hindustan College and the Department of English and Dr. Sophia especially for inviting me for for this occasion. I'm very happy to be part of this occasion and share my knowledge with you all. So it's nice that the college has been doing a lot of activities related to your improvement of language or your career related stuff. And I think this Corona time has given us a lot of opportunities to to help us uh, get a lot of opportunities to increase our knowledge, to take part in a lot of online discussions, and these are things that can really help us in a lot of ways. So for the rest of 45 or 1 hour, I'll be trying to tell you about certain things which are very important. It doesn't matter to which discipline you belong to. See, because each of us, we are all going to go in the same route, either in the corporate side or in the academic side. So it's like whatever I'm going to speak today, it's going to be useful to you in many ways. So I think we'll start without any delay. Okay, so I'll share the screen. If there is any issues, you can intimate me in the chat box so that I'll be able to right. So give me just one minute. So basically, today I'm going to speak on the title like be an asset and not an employee, right? This is very much applicable to both students and to people who are working, right? Be it any discipline, this is going to be a common topic for all of us. It doesn't matter if you're in the first year or if you're in the third year, if you're in some different academic departments also, it's not an issue. It's going to be a completely general topic. And I chose this topic because I'm into this line for almost 7 to 8 years. I've been in this field. Though my major is in English, I've been working as a trainer for a long time. And it's a kind of passion for me to help people get settled in recruitment. So that's the reason why I went into the training area. And it doesn't mean that I don't like literature. I love literature. But then I'm into two, so sometimes I focus more on the training part, and it's like it has been a long time since I'm into literature, specifically only for my doctoral stuff. So yeah, I think Vasudevan sir and ma'am has given a very good introduction about me, so I don't have to tell anything about me. So let's get into the topic, right? So if you look at this title, it speaks about you just not have to be an employee, rather than you have to be an asset in an organization that you're working. The reason is like it's very easy to get a job. Okay, it's not like people think it's very difficult to get a job. Okay, it doesn't matter no in what problem we are, like see corona or whatever it is. Now everything is giving an opportunity for us to improve ourselves. And the best part of us is like we have to look into opportunities when we are into problems. So in every problem there is an opportunity. You have to know how to identify it. That's the most important thing, right? So if we speak about business in general, you see, like if I ask you what is business, can anyone just let me know what is business? What do we mean by business? Can someone just let me know in the chat box, at least if you don't speak? What is business? Any idea? Students, I think you can interact with me, right? It's yeah. So yeah, one who has given negative view. I mean, like I don't get it, ma'am. Can you explain a bit? What do we mean by business? That's my question. What do we mean by business? It's a very general question, right? And whether you like it or not, like all of us are going to be part of an employer. Okay, for the employer, it's always a business, right? Yeah. One who opposes, fine, all right. Yeah, to some extent. What how do you see a business? I mean, like I'm asking the definition of business. What do you mean by business? Uh, pessimist. Yeah, pessimist means somebody who thinks negatively all the time, right? So you mean that a business or an employer looks at the negative side? Do you mean that? You understand what I'm saying? I'm asking you, what is a business? See, I'll make it very clear for you. See, business is an opportunity. Okay, the day-to-day activities. Good, great. Any other answers? Now, business means opportunities, right? Yes or no? We all know, right? Okay, but there is a definition more than that. What is a business? I mean, I don't know about others. I look at business in that way, right? I personally look. That's my personal perspective. What is a business? I'm expecting you to speak, at least in the chat box. Yeah, worst aspects of things. Yeah, good. Okay, now we'll move on. Like, see, the business. Basically, when we talk about business, we are dealing with a problem, right? So, business is basically a solution that addresses a problem. Like take examples for foodstuffs like Swiggy or Zomato. You take all these industry, they have found a problem that people require food at different times, and they don't have access to either foods or snacks whenever they want. And imagine if somebody is sick at home and they cannot prepare food at home, so they have to find an alternative. Either they have to go to a restaurant, for which many would not be able to go, like because they don't like traveling, or it would be raining. There are multiple things. And now during Corona, like there is no transport, so they don't feel comfortable going outside and having food. So like these companies have found opportunities, in business, that if only we can supply the foods to the people right at their homes, then our business would shine. So that is a concept. That's a problem actually. So they have found a problem and they are addressing a problem. So this is where business starts to grow. So every organization that we are working for, see, today you're a student and tomorrow you're going to be an employee. So if you're working in in any organization, be it any field, so what happens is that you are contributing to their business. It is their business, right? So for them, they look at it as business, okay. But for us, we look at it as a workplace. We have our own roles and we support it. So basically, we are helping them solve a problem, okay. So this is business. Now, when we talk about employer or employee relationship, or whatever we want to study under this theme, the crux of this idea is to make sure what we are doing is we are dealing with problems and we are dealing with businesses. This is what you have to understand basically. Okay, unless you support people's business, nobody is going to value you, right? See, if you want to be recognized, if you want to be go to the next level, then you have to make sure that you are kind of supporting whatever venture they are into, right? So you have to do that. If you don't do that, then you'll be just one of the person in the organization, right? Nobody's going to bother about you, and you're not going to stay in that organization for a long time if you keep doing this. So I think it's more important, to establish a very sound relationship with your employer before you can, do your normal day-to-day work. That's more important, right? Because only that makes sure that you can sustain in an industry. It doesn't matter to which field it belongs to. Everybody are looking for people who are really talented, who can contribute something to the organization, right? If you're just coming and going, it doesn't make any sense. Anybody can do that, right? So there is a lot of difference. And these are things that we are going to see today in our presentation, right? So if there is any doubt, if you have any question, I think in the last 10 or 15 minutes, I'll be open for questions you can ask me, right? So we'll proceed. Okay, now when I spoke about problem, now I'm saying Corona as a problem. Okay, when I say problem, I mean like opportunities. Now let this, we need to understand, post COVID, the recruitment industry is going to take a different route because the impact is so much. We have to understand. Okay, so it's going to take a very different route. Now, before COVID, what happened is a lot of companies that were ready to come for campus placements. A few companies like TCS and say CTS, all these companies, they were going for the online hiring platform, right? The TCS would normally conduct the national eligibility test, okay, which happens throughout India, and they recruit. They've started recruiting people like that. They don't visit the campus anymore, right? Maybe to the few top tier colleges they would do, but then now they are stopping. Now all companies have stopped coming to the campus. Now this is going to be a kind of change that's going to happen in the industry, because coming for the campus and spending for the traveling, for the accommodation, whatever it is, right, for the hospitality, everything, it's going to be a lot of money involved. So when you think about cost cutting, now people do online hiring, and online hiring has become, has taken its peak in this time specifically. I've seen a lot of companies doing online hiring. We always speak about, say, there is no jobs. Now many people have lost jobs. But when we say many people have lost jobs, it also means that a lot of opportunities are open, because a lot of people losing jobs and a lot of opportunities are there now. At any time they could announce a recruitment. For that we have to be ready, right? So when you look at the impact of COVID-19 on the employment sector, because we are in this field for some time, so we understand that it has been devastating. And a lot of people, it's true that they have lost their jobs and now the positions are vacant. The companies are struggling to, get their clients and get their products delivered to the clients. So it's becoming a lot of difficulty because of numerous reasons, because of lockdown, problems with logistics, whatever it is, right? So they'll not be able to take care of their employees now, when if it's like not meeting their business profits. It's going to be really difficult. But then it also means that there are a lot of opportunities coming up for all of us. So when I say all of us, you have to differentiate between, how good are you going to be the to the employer. So that's what you have to focus on. So see, according to this certain survey, okay, it was like 25 million jobs uh, they are predicting that it would have a loss due to this coronavirus, and it's given by United Nations, right? And bank HSBC, they are again planning to cut around 35,000 jobs, and companies like Uber India and South Asia, Ola, Zomato, Swiggy, and all these companies, they've again reduced jobs. Now, this is just to give you an highlight about what is happening around and how you should prepare for the post-COVID era. This is what I want to focus on. So it doesn't mean that we are not going to get jobs. See, what you have to understand is there is every opportunity for a person who is highly skilled. If you're very much skilled, then it's very easy for you to get a job. For see, according to me, getting a job is it's not a problem at all, right? Sustaining in that job is more important than getting a job. Anybody could get a job. See, you try this company, you don't get, you try for the next company, and you're going to land up in a job maybe in like 2 or 3 interviews, right? Anybody can do that. The only problem is the salary negotiation should be, some people would accept it, some people won't accept it. But then that's their personal issue, right? When it comes to salary. So, to me, I'll always tell to students that sustaining in a job is more important. Okay, so that is completely another topic. So that we'll see later, right? And there are some other researches coming up, like My Hiring Club and Sakari Naukri. Okay, they have again announced some things like the online survey covered 1,124 companies and across 11 industries. Where they found out that 73% said they have plans to decrease the salary of the employees, and we have seen this happening to all of us, right? And somewhere it's 75%, somewhere it's 50%, somewhere there is no salary at all. So it all depends. And somewhere there is loss of jobs also. So all these things are happening. I don't want to highlight all these things because you already know all these things. I just want to give an hint. Now, all these things, I want you to look at opportunities. Don't take it as a negative view. Okay, you don't have to see these things, in a negative sense. You have to look at it from the positive side. That's more important, right? So, I'm sorry. So when we talk about loss of jobs, it also includes openings. It also includes recruitments, right? So that is what I want you to focus on, right? So let's see. Okay. Now we'll talk about people, like you who are going to be freshers very soon, right? So you can be in your second year or third year or final year. I would always suggest people to start preparing for the last minute right from now. It doesn't matter even if you're in the first year. You can start. Fine. So when we talk about employment challenges, there are a lot of employment challenges to us. The first thing that I've observed with the youngsters today is they are not patient enough. Okay, they don't have the habit to wait. They don't have the habit to look at things in a way that they are supposed to see. Okay, because they form their own opinion and they want things to be done immediately. Okay, now you can expect this from your parents, right? You want something, you ask them and you want it immediately, they would be happy to help you out. They would be happy to buy you for it immediately. But you can't expect this from a society, right? Everything needs time. See, it's like saying I want to improve my language, but I don't have time, right? You can't improve language if you don't invest time. And I've seen a lot of questions, both online and offline. People, asking about, like improving communication, say in 2 months, in 3 months, in 5 months. It's definitely not possible at all. It's not practically possible. And if somebody is saying that, it's not true at all, right? Investing time in learning language is very important, right? And see, though we are people like us, we are into language for more than like 8 or 9 or 10 years, you know, still we are learning. And even if I'm going to have 25 years or 30 years or 40 years of teaching experience, I would still be learning. So you have to look at language learning as it's a lifelong process. That's how you look at language. And you don't learn language because you want to clear a exam. You don't learn language because you want to get into placement. You don't learn language because you want to appear for any exam or get a degree. You don't have to look at language in that sense. It's not meant for that. Language is meant for your career, right? So it's something that is going to come with you for a long time, right? So you have to look at it from this sense. So don't ever, I always say this to students, like if they are preparing for say IELTS or TOEFL or GRE or SAT, whatever exams, I tell you, see, you please prepare for language section. It is called as say verbal ability. Okay, it's called as verbal ability. So if you're preparing for verbal ability is nothing but a higher form of English. Okay, like if you look at GMAT or SAT or Cambridge assessments or Oxford assessments, you will have a different standard. No? That's what we call it as verbal ability. And verbal ability is part of competitive exams. It's part of placements. It's part of banking exams. It's part of everything, right? The English, the higher level of English that you see in any question paper comes under verbal. So basically, when students are preparing for verbal ability stuff, I always tell them, you're not learning now to clear that exam, right? See, that would happen automatically if you're learning for your career. So look at it in a long perspective. Okay, what if you don't clear this exam? Does it mean that you're going to stop learning language? No, it doesn't mean that, right? Still you need your language. So it's not about this exam, it's about your life, it's about your career. So you have to always have this in mind. And I see that a lot of I think being English students are here, so you guys have to put in more efforts, than the other department students, right? Because for them it's more of employment way of looking at language. For literature students, I think it's more of shaping your life. So you have a lot to do, when compared to them, because you're into literature and you're into life. When you're into literature, you're into life. So you learn many things. So make sure that like whoever it is, whichever department you belong to, uh, like you have to have the habit of reading and listening. Both things are very important, right? Fine. So let's see about preparation. Now all these things which I've spoken to you till now is called as like basically we call it as preparation. And I'm not talking about getting a job. I'm talking about surviving in an industry. See, we when we speak about job loss, right? Now, have you ever thought who are those people who are sent out from a company? You have to think about that, right? We see in OCTS has sent around 10,000 students. They have fired those people and they are no more into the job. Now, who are those 10,000 people? You should ask this question. And why would someone's name come under that 10,000? Either they are getting a very high salary, okay, and not contributing anything to the organization. Nobody will send you out for just getting a higher salary. Please understand that. The point is they have not contributed anything to the organization and they are getting a higher salary. That's how you have to look at it. That's the reason why they are sending somebody out of an organization. What contribution is that person making to the company if he is earning so much of salary from us, right? So any employer would ask that question. So you have to look at it that way. So as soon as you get into an organization, you question yourself, right? Every day I'm coming, every day I'm going, but what is my contribution? Is the management happy about what I'm doing it? Or you think in their perspective, will they retain me for another 2 years? You know that you need to know, that you need to evaluate. Nobody's going to come and tell you, you have to do this, you have to do that. No, you have to think about, you're trying to analyze in your own way. Okay, so the first thing that you have to do is you have to become an asset. We'll get back to the title again. So you have to know how to be an asset. Okay, but all of us, to some extent, we always feel that we are just employees. We don't contribute much. And I'll give you an example for an asset, as we proceed, so you will understand. Now, when I talk about preparation, and when I'm saying that preparation is something which is more important than landing up in a job, okay, because you use preparation as a tool to land up in a job. So, how do you prepare? The first thing is have a very good awareness about the industry in which you're working or studying, whatever it is. If you belong to literature, a student of literature should always be different from people who are not into literature. You should show the difference. If you don't, then it means that you're not good enough, right? So if a student is from philosophy, right, you know that he should be very different. He should be knowing life more than us. Okay, so these are things that you have to focus on. Have a very good awareness about your field, your awareness. This is very important. When I say awareness, it's not about knowing about past things. This is how my field started, and all the history. That's not important. You have to know what is happening right now. What are the changes that has happened right now in the industry? What have they invented now? What is new now? These things you have to know. And now again, with respect to corona stuff, how has my field changed? You have to know that, because when you go to recruitment, people are going to question you, right? And this is going to be there for some time. So you need to know what changes are happening in your field, as and when it happens. And are you aware about that? That's one thing that anybody wants to question, right? The next thing is, once you know about the industry, the next thing would be to align yourself to the industry. Now, when we speak about alignment, this is where the company is going to recognize you, right? If there are 60 students in a class, in this point, you're going to make a difference, right? If you're not aligning to the industry, then it doesn't mean that you are aware about the industry. And no, you are not going to give a very good impression when the interview is going to happen. So aligning yourself to the industry's requirements or expectations is very important, right? So when I talk about alignment, you need to know about everything: how the company works, who the company is, and what are their products, what are the things that they are doing. All these things you have to be aware. See, whether you're going to get into teaching field, or whether you're going to get into corporate field, or you're going to become whatever it is, whatever roles you're going to take, everything is from an industry. So you should know some, like a lot of things about industry before you can step into the interview process, right? This is very important. Without prior knowledge, without having any idea about what is happening in the field, if you go and sit in an interview, it's very difficult to clear, or if it is very difficult to impress the person who's, the employer who is questioning you. It's very difficult. They would have a feeling that you're not updated, right? So make sure that you are aware about the industry. Point number one. The second thing is align yourself to the industry. Aligning means preparation, knowing about things, the process, how it works, and what is your role, your contribution, everything you should know in this, level. The next thing is minimizing your expectation for a realistic salary package. I've seen a number of freshers, whenever we get into recruitment, they don't have skill, to be very true. And especially this is very important with engineers, engineering graduates, right? They are not able to show their quality because they don't have quality, right? And there were a lot of organizations that were doing a survey on the quality of engineering in India, and unfortunately, there is been a very negative impression on the quality of engineering in India. It's it's like that. It's the real realistic state. It's because they are not doing things in a practical way. It's because they are not able to associate or align themselves to what the industry is expecting and what they are learning in the college, and what they are doing in the in the workplace. It's entirely outdated. So these are things that we have to focus. And yeah, colleges they are all trying to collaborate with the industry and trying to bring in a lot of improvements. It's happening on the one side, but it has to meet the industry's expectation. Okay. So people are not realistic when it comes to salary. Okay, so you need to know the market value of what you're doing. See, if you are into business, if you don't know about a product, and if you want to do a business, it's difficult to sustain. You can't do. You should know the market demands. You should know the market value of what you're doing. See, this is applicable to you as well because you're a product. Okay, you're a product which you will be selling out yourself, right? What is your value? If I ask you a question like, what is your value? How would you answer it? Can anybody answer? I'm asking you, like, what is your value? How do you answer? What is your value, Ma? Can you answer? Now, all of us know we have some value, right? And you're paid for the value that you bring in, right? If I'm correct. And see, people look at you as a product, right? You're no different from a television set. You're no different from a mobile phone. See, a mobile phone gives us some value. A television gives us some value. Your laptop gives you some value. So you are a person who are giving. You have to give some value, and people judge you and people reward you for the value that you bring into the organization, right? So when we talk about, yeah, personal skills, very good. Personal skills, everything is covered. See, when we talk about value, everything is covered. Your communication is covered, your social skills is covered, your personality traits is covered, your subject knowledge is covered, your prior knowledge related to the industry is covered. Everything is it's like a combination. Now value, and people value you when you know things. When you're able to do things, people value you a lot. And salary is not going to be a problem for giving for a person who has real values, right? So you have to inculcate not just subject knowledge or domain knowledge. You have to also inculcate a lot of things which will help you to sustain in a job. These are things that are important. So it could be attitude, it could be personality skills, right? Even as simple as body language, even that is important, right? And being very social, being a team worker, being a leader. No, all these things are very important. All these things together, it creates a value for the employee. Okay, so when the value is to its highest level in a person, in an individual, then he slowly converts himself from an employee to an asset. This is what happens, and it takes a lot of time. It's not easy because people judge you, and it doesn't happen no same to everybody. Okay, certain people can establish themselves in a very good role very soon in their life, maybe because of luck, or maybe because they are highly talented, or maybe because the management or the organization has seen them in the right way, right? They have been projecting in the right way. So it was easy to find them that there is some value in this person, so they are rewarded very soon in life. For certain people, they would be working for say 7 years or 8 years or 10 years. They are not rewarded, or they are not recognized. Okay, so workplace is very different from for all of us. Okay, so it depends on your luck also sometimes. So no, the takeaway from this particular slide is, as I mentioned to you earlier, getting a job is quite easy, but like sustaining in that job is difficult. To sustain, you have to do two things. One is prepare a lot, and then add value to where you work. These two things will make sure that nobody is going to ask you to go out of the company. I asked you a question like, why would certain people in an organization be fired when others are not? The thing is, these guys have not contributed well enough to the company. Okay, so if your contribution is good, if you're creating value, if you're adding value to the organization, then nobody is going to disturb you because they want you. They want you to be with them because they find value in you, right? So this is the point that I want to leave you with this slide. And yeah, now when we, like when we talk about, preparation, as you know, like preparation alone cannot help. Okay, so what are the other things that we have to focus on apart from preparation is employees look for affordability. Most often quality comes next. There are certain employers, it's like they are more focused on affordability. Imagine if I'm into teaching and I'm coming with a doctorate and I'm demanding a salary of say 40,000 or 50,000, and I'll go to class and teach. Imagine if a fresher comes to the same role but without a doctoral degree, and he can do the same what I'm doing for 20,000 or 25,000. Now, like the role is same, it's just teaching, and I'm going to do the same thing, and the person who's a fresher is going to do the same thing, right? And where do you think I'm adding value to the organization? If only my work was to go and teach in the class, and if the same thing is done by a fresher, now why would they have to pay me 50,000? You understand? They could hire another two people for the freshers role to do this, right? So this is what I mean by affordability. See, they are looking at like spaces where affordability counts a lot. Okay, so quality is next. Okay, for many quality is next. This is one thing that you have to understand. So you have to make sure that you don't, you know, this you have to relate this point with the other point that I told you. You need to know the market value. If if teachers are getting, if private school teachers or college teachers are getting paid, uh, I'm just talking about an approximate level of salary. If they are getting paid around say 30,000 or 25,000 as a market industry value, you going for the interview and asking 50,000 wouldn't make any sense, right? So even when you're trying to negotiate with the salary, you have to know the market value. Otherwise, people are going to laugh at you because they understand that you have not estimated the market value at all, and you're going and asking a salary which is practically not possible at all. So this is something that is important. So an employer has a value. It's like they feel this is the kind of salary that we have to give for this individual because his value is so much from 1 to 10. Okay, this is his value, so we'll fix a salary like this. Okay, so this is not just in teaching, it's with every. Okay, running the show has become vital than keeping the employees happy and productive. Now I told you, right, if an employee wants to run the show, I mean run the business, if they just want to run the business, they're not worried about quality, then they will not be worrying about hiring people who are really having quality. You understand? So when running the show becomes more important, when anybody can do the job becomes very important, your salary is not going to help you out, or quality is not going to make any sense there. So there are organizations like that which focus more on just running the business and like not focusing on employees well-being or their quality service, whatever it is, right? Okay. And the next one is The question of contribution from freshers when skilled and experienced workforce is available at large. Now, this is one point that all of you should understand, right? Imagine if there is somebody with 10 years of experience who is ready to come and work for 30,000, and you are a fresher who is going to be graduating this year, and you are expecting 30,000. Why would the employer come and choose you when somebody who is skilled and with more experience, okay, is ready to come down to, like a salary of 30,000 and work, then your asking 30,000 will not make any sense. And you don't see this happening everywhere. It's happening everywhere, right? You go to a interview. I mean, like you have to go to a off-campus interview, right? You go somewhere and you attend an interview. You see variety of candidates sitting there. Some people would be freshers. Some people are having around 1 or 2 years of experience. Some people will definitely have 5 to 10 years of experience sitting there, and like they have come down because many people are losing jobs, and like they want a job immediately because of some constraints. It could be financial or family, whatever it is. They have a constraint, so they are coming down in their expectation. I was earning 80,000, but now I was, like for imagination, I'm telling you. See, I was, let's keep that I was earning 80,000. And now, due to Corona, I've lost my job. Now I can't expect the same salary around, right? So I would have to come down. So if I come down, what happens is like, okay, I'm okay with 50,000, or I'm okay with at least 40,000 because survival is more important for us. So I'll go down. And when this person with 10 years is coming and asking 40,000, and somebody like a fresher who doesn't have any experience and who doesn't know anything about the field, and I have to, the employer has to train, in that sense, he asking 30,000 or say 40,000 doesn't make any sense, right? So this is something that you have to, uh, you know, be aware about. So that's the, point that I'm saying here. When skilled and experienced workforce is available at large, this is what is happening all around. People are like that, right? So yeah, see, this is the point that I keep stressing in my talk, right? Getting a job is easy, but sustaining it, it's difficult. It's very difficult to sustain unless you prove. If you want to sustain, you have to prove. If you don't prove, your sustainability is a question, right? So, how can you sustain in a organization? We'll look into that. So the first thing is quality. No matter what, don't ever compromise on quality because quality always speaks. If not in one organization, it would be recognized in another organization that you will work for. So never ever compromise on quality. This is the first thing that I want to tell you all, right? The second thing is please don't underestimate your potential. Everyone is talented in some way, and you look at all motivational talks, they always say that um, you are talented, but then you have to identify your talent. Okay, but the problem is most of us don't know what my talent is. When you don't know what your talent is, you're not going to, come up in life. So spend some time and find out what you're good at. There are two ways of looking at it that I'll tell you in the end. Okay, one is the academic part, and the other one is the extracurricular part. Okay, what are you good at in other ways, the other side. Okay, but then identification is more important. So two things are very important. The first one is maintain very good quality all the time, and the second thing is improve your potential. Don't underestimate it. Okay, if somebody says you are not fit for anything, you say I may be, then but then you still feel that you are good at something, right? Don't ever take like others opinion very seriously. You need to have a very good opinion about yourself. Okay, so self evaluation is very important. The second thing is nurture creativity and productivity. So it's not enough if you have quality. You need to know how to be creative and innovative. You can't repeat the same things again and again, right? So you have to be creative. If businesses are not creative, they'll not sustain. You know, this happened with Nokia company. I can give you a number of examples, but I'll point out very big disasters in business. The first disasters happened when Nokia phones, which was leading the market, when they were not able to upgrade themselves to the Android platform. Okay, they were not able to survive in the industry. So, you know, like few years, the name Nokia went down. They had to close the company, and the company that is there now, it's not the real Nokia. You understand? Now this is established in this brand name, but it's not, you know, the actual one, the founding one. It's not that, right? So you have to watch YouTube for knowing about all these all the time, right? So they were not able to upgrade themselves. They were not creative. They thought what they were doing is best in the industry because they were in the first position. You know, Nokia phones, they were in the first position for the interface, for the usability. You take anything, no, they're very cheap again, very less. I should say very not very expensive, right? So you know, like they were first in the market, but after like 1 or 2 years, they were nowhere in the market. When a big company like that can come down, okay, come down and meet a loss, why not an individual? If you don't upgrade yourself, if you don't know what is good at you, if you don't know how to be innovative or creative, you're not going to last for long, right? Definitely, people are going to throw you away. This is going to happen very soon. See, I am not here to give you a negative perspective of um, the recruitment sector. What I'm speaking is I'm transparently speaking about what is happening in the recruitment industry. So the only thing that you have to focus is, if I'm strong in my values, if I'm strong in quality, in creativity, in innovation, you know, I nobody can, you know, ever do anything to me. I can survive. If not in one company, in another company I'll be recognized and I can survive. Getting a job wouldn't be difficult for a candidate who's like that, who knows his potential. So please identify your potential. And if you don't know how to do it, maybe I can help you out. You can reach out to me, and I'll tell you ways in the end of this session. Right. The third one is becoming an asset of the organization. So let's see like how you can become an asset of the organization. Now I know that you understand the term asset. You know, asset is something, you know, who provides value to the organization where he works. He is rewarded for that, and nobody wants to, you know, ever send him out of the company. He is so much important. He is like a family. Okay, you don't want to you know, like hurt your family member, right? You don't want to do that. I mean, like, sometimes we do it, but that doesn't mean like we cannot do it. The thing is, you have love towards them. So an employer should have love towards you only if you're an asset. Okay, if not, it's very difficult. So when it comes to maximizing job conversion, now we are talking about conversion. So these things are very important here. The first one is being ready for a job. Job readiness is very important, right? So second thing is pre-employment checks. You have to know what is happening in your field. So I would call it as pre-employment checks, right? And the next thing is conversion skills. It's not just enough you know about the industry and you know about how it's going to be, right? But if you don't know how to convert yourself, then it's of no use. See, imagine you're a marketer, you're a marketing student. I'm giving a product to you and I'm asking you to market. If you're not able to convert it into sales, and it's always there in the marketing level, then it's going to be of no use. You need to know how to sell it. You need to know how to sell yourself. So focus on that. So these points will help you do that. First thing, awareness about current openings. If I ask you a question like, imagine if there are third years here, and if I'm asking a question like, how many of you are aware about what's happening in the industry? Have you decided to which field you're planning to go? You should be doing it right now, right? Yes. By this time, you should have a clear idea about which field I'm interested to work for. Where is my passion? See, if you're working in an place or in an area in which you don't have any interest or passion, you're not going to be there in that area for long. Definitely, this you will quit it after say 1 year or 2 years because you don't find interest in that, right? So work comes along with passion. You have passion, you can work. Even if you're not rewarded, also you keep working because you are very passionate about work. I mean, like working in that particular field. So identify your passion, identify your interest. This is the time that you have to do. And if you had identified this in your second year or say in your first year itself, that's brilliant because you have a lot of time to improve on your passion. See, the second thing is knowledge about organizations. I already told you. You have to be aware about the organization that you're going to work for, right? Or you're going to attend the interview. That's very important. And staying ahead of others. This is very important. If I'm coming as an employer to your college and I'm seeing all 60 of you, all of you have done, say, for example, BA English. Say, this is an example, right? So all of you have done English, but I have 60 students. I have 60 openings now. Now, whom should I hire? I have a question. So I'll have to find out, who are the students who are staying ahead of what is happening in the college, right? Your curriculum, your degree, it doesn't matter to me. Your marks, it doesn't matter to me. Now, what apart from these things have you done in your life? What is your contribution when you're there as a student for 3 years? This is something that I'm looking for. So staying ahead of others becomes a very important thing. So expertise in your domain and related technology, this I told you already. You have to have some domain specific knowledge. If you don't, you will not be rewarded. Very simple. And no matter to which discipline you belong to, you need to know something about technology. See, I belong to English, but I know a lot about computer science because it's my passion. I like it, you know. So learning about technologies is something that I do always. It's no way related to what I'm doing, but then I want it to be done because I love it. So likewise, even if you're into a non-technical background, knowing something about technology is very important, right? If somebody asks you to speak on, say, automation, you need to know how to speak on automation. If somebody is going to give you some task on, say, artificial intelligence, you need to have some basic idea about how artificial intelligence works. Because our future is about technology. Our business is about technology. We are implementing a lot of things, in and around. So you need to have some knowledge about technology as an additional qualification, right? It could be a certificate or it could be a course or an online course that you have done. It could be anything. So you need to know something about technology. And then notable contributions to your field. Now, when I say notable contributions, I'm talking about the contributions made by, great people to your organization. I mean, like up to date, not old ones, right? So your field, it's your field, and you should know what is happening in your field. Say, imagine if I'm speaking to students of agricultural engineering, I would want them to know about what is happening in agricultural industry right now, right? What are the latest equipments that they have manufactured, which we can use for farming? They should be aware about all these things, right? These are things that I want you to focus on, right? See, all of us, we understand that you have a lot of work. You are into academics, you write exams, you write assignments, you do a lot of things, right? But then more important than that is to spend some time for improving yourself every day. And nobody is going to force you. your parents, they won't ask you. They are comfortable if you are attending a class, if you're getting the attendance, and if you are trying to clear your exams. That's how they look at it. Your teachers are comfortable if you're coming to the class every day, if you're getting marks, and if you're improving your skills to some extent. Okay, so we would be happy. And if you're getting placed in a job, we would be very happy. But then there is no one who will sit with you and find out what is your problem and then rectify those issues and guide you properly. Very few people do that. It's because you don't ask. There are people available, but you don't ask. You don't make a search and go to them and ask all these things. So I'm not blaming everybody. I'm just telling. So it's important that you talk to people. Okay, that's called as being social to everybody. That is very important, right? So these are things. So notable contributions you should know. You should only if you talk to people, you will know what is happening in your field. Everybody would have a different opinion on what is happening, right? So they will update you, and you'll be knowing about a lot of things. Fine. The next thing is I told you. See, if you want something, you have to go and get it. That's the only way you can land up in something good. See, everything will not come to us, right? So you have to search, you have to take some steps, right? So that's what we are going to focus on this slide. The first thing is socialize. You have to learn and you have to evolve in your field, right? So when you're socializing either on LinkedIn or going and meeting people directly, even an industrial visit, whatever it is, you're just going for a trip, learn something, utilize it in a different way, learn something. This is what I call as socialize, right? The first thing. The second one is face the competition. The competition is those people who are in and around you. So we have to look at it as competitors. So if I'm a business, I should know about my competitors, right? See, imagine if I'm into food industry. I want to start a company similar to Swiggy. Imagine there is scope, I can start. Okay, so I want to start, then I should know whether I'll be able to compete with a company like Swiggy because they are doing it all over India. And imagine I'm starting in Coimbatore. How am I going to compete with a company like Swiggy? I have to aim for the high companies, not the lower ones. I'm not going to compare myself with the restaurants. That's a different business. And Swiggy is a different business. So knowing about your competitors is very important. And for you, all the competitors are your friends. Or if you're going for an off-campus interview, all those people who are going to come and work with you. And for people who are working, the competitors are your colleagues. They are your competitors. You may be friends, but an employer doesn't look at you all like that, right? For them, they just need the best. So you may be friends, okay, but the person who is good will retain in that case. So you should know some idea about how to match your competitor or how to overcome or excel your competitors. This is very important, right? So the final point is explore multiple opportunities. See, this point I suggest to everybody. It's like saying you don't take like one way route. You don't do that. You have to know like to shift yourself to different fields. So try campus recruitments, go for banking, go for civil services, okay? Or if you want to get into teaching, do that. Or if you want to become a trainer, do that. So always focus on multiple opportunities. So you will land up in something which you like. There's no guarantee, there is no guarantee in life that I'll land up in this field, I'll land up in this job, I'll land up in this salary. It doesn't happen, right? Okay, it's not as we predicted. So you should have a plan B or a plan C, but your primary plan A, you should focus a lot. in case that primary plan A is not going to work, you should be comfortable enough to go for plan B or plan C. Is it clear? This is what I want you to understand. So this is what when it comes to campus recruitment is very important. And I've seen a lot of students who are very much interested in something, and when they don't crack it, they feel really depressed, because they were not able to crack it, and they feel like as if their whole life is getting spoiled, and they don't have the motivation to go further or reappear for the exam. And you see a lot of suicide cases in India just because of this NEET exam. At that age, what do they know about their life? It's because parents are not interacting to children. It's because these guys never go to their teachers and talk freely. They don't know anything about what's happening around, what is life, what are the things that can be done in life. And they come to a conclusion, okay, this is gone, so that's it, my life is over, and they commit suicide. So I would not openly state that if see, parents should spend a lot of time with children, analyzing what they are doing. They should make them feel, see, they should always make them feel like, no matter what, life goes on. Okay, so even if you fail in an exam, it's okay, it's perfectly all right. You have to clear, but then you do it. I know you will do it. Give them that hope. Parents should give them that hope. Or if they don't do that, you self evaluate yourself. If something goes wrong, you feel that it's okay, then I'm going to work on this, I'm going to see how this works. You always have an alternative, right? If there is no alternative, none of us would be surviving here, right? So look at things in that way, right? Don't be very much negative in your life. So the next thing, this is one thing that I want all of you to do, ma. See, what you understand from here is, it's like it's a small activity for you. You have to write your short-term and long-term goals. And see, when I'm talking about goals, I'm talking about three different goals. If this doesn't work, you will go with this. If that doesn't work, you will opt for the third one. So prioritize your career needs or goals in three ways. One is short term and one is long term. For the short term, you should have at least three, and for the long term, you should have at least three. If you can't figure it out, you can leave it blank. I mean, like any one or two, you can leave it blanks, no problem. Because our career needs and goals, no, it keeps on changing as we, become old. Okay, so the thing is, as of now, what do you feel that your short-term goal is? You put that, I mean, prioritize it. That is the most important short-term goal for you. Put it in number one, right? Okay, after that, in case you achieve that, right, then what should be your number two? Or in case you don't achieve number one, so what would be the alternative? Put it in number two. You do that. And then one or two long-term goals. And imagine, I want you to, maintain this, sheet with your resume. You have the sheet with your resume because there should be an alignment. You will always see, if you don't have a resume, try to create one, and then always have this sheet along with your resume. I'm not telling you to show this to the employer. I'm telling you this is only for self-evaluation purpose, to find out whether you're going in the right route, or how many times this short-term or long-term goals keep changing in your life. So it means that you're not stable. That should not, you should not initiate that. Say for example, you write completing my degree, okay, next year is your short-term goal. It's definitely not a short-term goal here, because it's going to happen anyhow, whether you like it or not. This year you're going to complete your degree, right? So when that is happening automatically, it doesn't come under short-term goal. Okay, so short-term goals or long-term goals should be something that where you have to take effort, and if you don't take any effort, this is not going to happen. So those things should be part of this list. It should be something that you are going to spend extra time for it. If you don't do it, now you'll not be able to meet the goals. So write such things here. Okay, 1, 2, 3. Okay, this is easy. If you want, I can send the PowerPoint to you. So you have to note this, right? Yeah. Next one is dealing with negativity. This is widespread problem, right? Wherever you go, you say I want to do this, somebody is going to say this wouldn't work. Okay, this is happening for everyone. But how do we deal with negativity? My perspective, to see when a person fails is that failure is for those who never try. So if you have tried and if you have failed at something, it is not a failure. That's what I believe. When comparing to those who have never done it, you are far better. At least you have tried and you know about the process. So somebody, uh, I heard the sentence somewhere, I forgot it, right? Like it says, you do something, okay? You do something with such an involvement, okay? You do something with such an involvement, you will be able to achieve it. In case you are not able to achieve it, you can become the right person to teach about that, right? So I have seen a number of people who were not able to clear, like IAS or IPS, but then they become a lot of very good trainers, you know to train people on IAS and IPS. So these are things that you have to understand. If you're not going to achieve it, you will know about the process completely. You'll be able to guide people, right? So for that quality, it's worth to try. So failure is just for people who don't try. So opportunities are everywhere. Even if somebody says no, the job sector is coming down, your field is not good, your department is not good, what you're studying is outdated, it's okay. You say no, I can manage, I'm taking steps to improve everything. I know what I'm doing. Okay, so have that attitude. Don't listen to others. I mean, like, when they speak negatively, especially. See, some people would criticize you for good. Some people would caution you for thinking that you don't have to face loss. If somebody, see, if my friend is opening a business and I'm telling, uh, see this, I feel that this business is not going to work because of these reasons. I'm not aiming to let him down. That's not my aim. I'm trying to advise him, telling him that, see, uh, this business at this point of time and at this place, I don't think it works. I'm going to tell him my reasons, and then he has to evaluate it. And he can't know, he can't feel like, say, I told my thing to my friend, but then he's talking negatively. It's not that way. So you should know a difference between a constructive criticism. Okay, you should know the difference between a constructive criticism and a real negative perspective or a real negative opinion. You should know the difference. Okay, so try doing that. Now the problem is, how equipped are you? Now this is the one problem that you have to focus on. Now opportunities are there everywhere, but then are you equipped for it? Are you the right person for it? This question, I think, you have to ask yourself. Okay, then stop seeking for comfortable jobs, looking for challenging questions. Now, like, I've seen a number of people, asking, will that job have work pressure in it, right? Do we have work pressure? Or, like, say, will everything be comfortable in that job? Will I be happy in that job? No, you're going for a company to work, right? If you don't have challenges, you're not going to improve yourself. Okay, so why do you have to be comfortable in a job? They are paying you to fix their problems. There are a lot of problems here. They want you to fix it, and that's the reason why they are considering you as an employee, and they're paying you. If you don't want to get into problem, if you want to be comfortable, then you cannot work, right? So if you don't have that attitude, See, this attitude is there with freshers, especially. I want to be in a comfortable job. I want to be in a job which gives me high perks. You know, I want to. I don't want to have stress in my job. This is not going to work out. This is completely unrealistic, right? So choose challenging positions. You will learn a lot. You will know how to handle a problem. You will be very competent, okay, and people will respect you for what you do because you have faced so many problems and you have found solutions for it. You have rectified issues. You have supported the organization. You have become an asset finally, right? So try doing that. So if there is work pressure, or if there is challenge, if there is a lot of problems, you should be happy to work because you're learning something. You're learning personally. I'm telling you, it's not for the organization. You're learning something personally, which is going to shape your life, shape your career, shape yourself, right? So that's what I'm telling you that one. Stress is inevitable, but managing stress is not. Yes, everybody has stress. Even if I'm at home, I have a lot of stress. Even if nobody speaks to me, I know I create stress for myself and I work on some things. You can't stop stress, right? So stress is there always, but then you should know how to handle stress. You should know how to do that. Why do you take everything to your heart? That's not the way you have to deal with life. Don't take things to your heart directly. First take it to your mind, evaluate it, see if it's worth for crying, see if it's worth for smiling, then you do the thing. You understand? So focus on uh, living a life without any stress. Okay, that's one thing. Then focus on your goal, not on hearsays. This is very important. Focus on your goal. Don't focus more on what people say, right? Because everybody has different opinion. You understand? So you can't do something based on others' opinion. You have to do something based on your opinion, right? So you need to know how to evaluate thoughts, how to look at things. All these things you have to do. And whatever I'm saying, it's going to be useful for your career and for your life. Okay? And so focus on goals, not on what people speak. Okay? Good. Fix your attitude and approach. See, even if you're very skilled, but your attitude is not good, it's not going to work out. Okay? You're not going to be valued. So make sure your attitude is right and your approach is very good. People should love your approach. I should feel like connecting with you. I should feel like, okay, you're a nice person and he helps a lot, he supports a lot, he teaches well. So you should connect with people. So you should fix your attitude and approach. So these are things that, yeah, till now we've been speaking about, like asset, who is an asset. Now, the best example could be Sundar Pichai, right? He's, what should I say, is like, you all know about him. I don't have to introduce him. But then one thing that I want to tell about him is he is just not the person who you're thinking about, right? He is more than that. In terms of capabilities, he's more. In terms of, being honest to his job, he's more. In terms of knowledge, he's more. In terms of contribution, he's more. In terms of salary, again, he's more, right? You take any point, he would come up. So, I've indicated certain traits of him, like subject mastery. He's very good at what he's doing. Number one, there's an example for asset here. See, the number one thing is he's very good at what he's doing. He loves it. He's very passionate. Okay, this is number one. Second thing is he's empathetic. He knows what other people thinks. He knows how to deal with this. People who are working under him. He's modest. I think we have seen him in a lot of YouTube interviews and all. You look at him, he doesn't showcase himself like the CEO of Alphabet or Google, right? He's as simple as a normal person. Very simple in his dressing, in his speaking, in his looks. There's nothing great about his looks also. He's normal. He's just a normal person, and people value for what you are, not for how you look. Understand that, right? Modest. It's a being humble, being polite, being down to earth. All these things come under modest. Leadership. And he is an example because he leads the whole company. And why would an Indian like him be uh, as a CEO of an American multinational company? It means he's adding value to that company. They've never found any American, okay, who can add as much as value as Sundar Pichai does. Now that's how I have to interpret. You understand? So this makes all the difference. How many people are there in Google? How many people are there working in Alphabet company, the parent company of Google? And why would they, come to Sundar Pichai? Because he is different. Because he is adding value to the company. And communicator, you should see how he speaks because he does a lot of product launches and he comes and gives interviews and all. You should look at his language. He's good. He speaks well. So he's a very good communicator. You feel, when we say communicator, he is very social. He's very social. Okay. Then he's a very good listener. He listens to people. These are qualities which I've personally observed from him. And then he's results driven. He's very focused on results. Yeah, Google is all about results, right? With everything, with their search engine, with their products they create, everything they are results driven, right? And they are very much give importance to numbers, right? He's very stable. He's an example of one person who is very stable in an industry. You should be knowing like how many years he has been working with Google, right from his initial role up until now as a CEO of both the companies. Now he has been stable, he has been loyal to the company, he has literally been an asset to a company. And he's innovative and he's a spokesman. Okay, he's very innovative, he's a spokesman, he's futuristic, he's collaborative. All these things would be applicable in his career. He's confident, loyal, and hard work. Now, see, if I could write about Sundar Pichai, if I could indicate so many qualities, I want you to do the same. You take up your resume or your photo and write what you feel. What am I? Who am I? Am I good? I mean, you have to write it from the other's perspective, not from your perspective. You may think you are good, but others may not think so. So you have to write it from your other's perspective. So that should be here. This is just an example here, and yeah, he's getting crores of salary. Okay, I don't know, like should be around. I think his yearly should be around like 1,500 or 2,000 crores. This includes his shares in the Google company, everything. Right? So how would a person like this, getting so much of money? And if you look at him, you would still say that he wants to learn more things. He wants to upgrade himself. He is trying this, he is trying that. That's the attitude, no? You don't feel that you're complete. You always want to improve. Okay. Now, yeah, we are nearing the final part, right? So, as of now, if you look at this chart, I've given 10 for each quality, and these are qualities that I want you to improve on, right? First one, have a very good job specific resume. I've seen people giving the same resume for every job. That's wrong. You have to change it, right? Every job, every different role requires a different resume. So you should have different resumes. You can't give the see. For example, if you're planning to become a trainer, then your resume should be apt to the training role. You have to change it. So this is what we call as job specific resumes. Second one, knowledge of job description. As soon as you JD, we call it as JD. So as soon as you see a job description or an advertisement about an opening, you have to read it properly, understand what is expected from you. So that is knowledge of job description. If you don't understand, and if you're not able to speak about what role you're going to play, then your way of addressing in the interview can go wrong. Okay, you will not meet their expectations. So understanding of JD is very important. Self introduction comes the third. Self intro is very, very important because that gives you the first impression, right? So the first thing is how you look. Okay, before you could begin speaking, people judge you on how you look. So make sure very formal and very good for the interview. And the next one is like self intro. Self intro should be proper. Attitude is more important, right? How you look at things, that's very important. How you behave, your behavior, that's important. Technical skills, that is like whatever department you are associated with, those things. You have to be strong in your technical skills. And the next one is knowledge of industry requirement, which we spoke in the beginning. I told you you should know what the industry is expecting from you, and you should align yourself to the industry. Competitor analysis, yes. Find out what are other people doing. I'm not asking you to compare, right? What I'm asking you to do is find out how people are trying to go ahead of you, and you make sure that you are also going okay better than them. So this you can do only with competitor analysis, right? Fine. Software proficiency is important even for non-technical people. If you say that you're good at speaking, but you don't know how to use Microsoft Office or Excel or PowerPoint or any other software which supports our learning teaching process, then it is of no use, right? So you should have some basic knowledge about the software and about the topics which I told you, like Internet of Things or automation or data analytics. You're not going to be an expert here. You just have to know about it. If somebody asks you, do you have any idea about big analytics? You have to say, yeah, I know what it is and how people use it. That would be sufficient. The next thing is uniqueness factor. You need to have some number here. It's like how unique you are. Are you unique? This thing is very important, right? So if I'm coming for your class for recruitment, and if I see like there are 50 or 60 students, then I would want to hire only the people who are really unique, who are kind of out of the box. So how unique are this one you have to answer. Yeah, this is the final slide. So you can see a table here that tells you that has few like columns. It says interest, skills, talent, and workplace, and then you have some score here. This is to just estimate like your efficiency score. This is very much applicable for people who are working and for those who are planning for going to work very soon, right? So first thing, in the interest column you have to write what are your interests there, and you give a score based on how much you know about that field. For example, I've given design. Now imagine I know design. I am giving myself a score of 5. I'm not an expert in design, but then I know design, so I can give a 50% score. I'm giving 5. This is everything is out of 10, so I'm giving 5. And do I have anything which supports my interest? That is, have you done any courses on design? If I have done, then I would write it there in the skills column, because that certificate shows I'm skilled in design. So how many certificates I have? So imagine if I have 5 certificates, then I can say, okay, I'm somewhere around 8 out of 10. But then if I don't have so much, say I have 1 or 2 certificates which is related to my interest, then I would say, yeah, I can write a mark around like 4 or 5 or 6. This, for example, I've done, right? And the next one is talent. Talent is you are very good at it. There is always a difference between skills and talent, right? Skill is something that you're capable to do, but talent is something that it's like competing with like top people. Talent, you can convert your skills into talent. I'll give you a very good example. Like if you're If you know driving, it's a skill. Driving is a skill. But if you're able to participate in a car race, imagine you're a person who is able to drive at Formula One racing, then you have a talent. Now you see how skills are changing into talent. Now for that you give a score. Now if you think you're the best, you can give up to 8 or 9. If you think okay you're growing, then you give somewhere around 6 or 5. If you think I have skill but I have not converted it into talent, then you don't write anything there. You leave it blank. Right? Imagine you are good at writing, but you have not published anything. So when you don't publish, it's not a talent. You're good at writing. You're skilled in writing, but you don't have a talent. So that's how you have to fill in this column. And the next one is how these three things are going to contribute for the workplace. So the total score you have to write. All these interest. See, you can't work in a job if you're not having interest in it. You can't work in a job if you're not having skills. And if you don't have talent, you will not be able to do it in the best way. So all these things are very important to, to excel in a workplace, right? So the total score, if it's 30, then what is your total score? And then you convert it to the, 100, and you see your efficiency score. And you can do this for both, career related, work related things, as well as your other aspirations too. Like imagine you are preparing for an exam. For that also you can create your own column and do it. Find out like what is your efficiency score. So down for a reference I have given, like if you have something around say 60, then below 60 you're kind of average. 60 to 75 you are having that quality of sustainability, and if you are around 75 to 85 then you are the expert in that field, and anything about 85, you I mean to say that he is a person who is having the quality to become an asset of the company. If you and people will recognize him. So if you are somewhere around 85 and above that, you have the quality of becoming an asset. So I think with this I've covered my all that things that I wanted to tell you. I don't know like how useful it was to you, and what was planned from your side, but yeah, I found it like this should be useful for all of you. So thank you so much again for the management, for the department, and for Dr. Sophia for inviting me, and to all the students who have been with me during the session. It was really wonderful experience. And now, if you have any questions, I'm open to answer. No questions, dear? See, it's okay even if you ask in Tamil also, no issues. Please feel free to ask. Did you learn anything out of this?
Yes, sir. So I hope as no one with question. Shall we wind up, sir?
Yes, ma'am, definitely, no issues at all.
Okay. Okay, sir. Just a few seconds.
Yeah.
Thankfulness is the beginning of gratitude. Gratitude is the completion of thankfulness. I take immense pleasure to thank our today's resource person, Dr. Rajesh Bhojan, founder and editor of the Dawn International Journal. Sir, this was really a great eye-opener for the freshers as you made it clear that how to overcome the employment challenges that they face nowadays. You really made it clear how to become an asset and not an employee. Your session was really an interesting one, and we are looking forward for more sessions in future. I would like to extend my thankfulness to our managing trustee, our principal, Dr. A. Ponnuswamy, who are always the motivators behind our success. I would like to thank our HOD ma'am, Dr. Priya Sharon Thomas, for organizing this webinar. And the last but not the least, I thank our faculty, Dr. Sophia and Mr. Velanathan, for their efforts to make this webinar a successful one. Thank you so much, sir. Thank you, one and all. Thank you, sir.
Thank you so much, ma'am. My gratitude for all the people and those who have participated, especially for the management, who has allowed me to speak on this area. So I thank everybody. And those who want to stay in touch with me, you can very well do it in this address. You can visit our journal page, or there is a YouTube channel that we are running where we help a lot of students, like improve their language skills and everything. So you can note this down, and anytime anything you can get in touch with us. Thank you so much for the opportunity. Thank you so much, ma'am.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, ma'am.